think marriage is more about a commitment and the decision to be a team for the rest of your life.
It is very important to function on a team when making decisions when you're married. It's your partner.
Yeah.
You can't do without them. There's no point in doing it without them. If you try to do things alone at that point, what are you even in a relationship for?
We're really different. So he's made me more organized, and I've made him able to come to things like an opera taping.
To be a team, I think a husband and wife need to communicate. They need to be a team. That's your best friend. That's your everything. And you need to preserve that relationship, that commitment, because that's going to be the strongest bond you have, for the rest of your life.
Studies have shown that the average adult in the U.S. makes about 35,000 decisions each day. That's mind-blowing. And with so many decisions, it's no surprise that couples get into daily arguments and power struggles. Our decisions can create divisions. I love 1 Corinthians 1:10. I appeal to you that all of you agree and that there be no divisions among you, but that you be united in the same mind and the same judgment. When a married couple has to work through issues like roles, household responsibilities, and chores, the key is to do this as teammates. And remember, you either win together or lose together.
We're going to talk a little bit about the aspect of teamwork and just what it means to be a team, how to operate as a team. In your relationships, when did you first feel that you were operating as a team rather than individual units? Because I think that happens in relationship is you kind of shed that identity and you work as a team. When did you first realize that?
When God created Eve, it was to be Adam's helpmate. But I just kind of took that as a principle for our marriage, that essentially I was created to help my husband in his endeavors. That does not mean that I don't have my own endeavors, that I don't have things that I do independently of him, that he can't help me in my endeavors, but that at the end of the day, that we're a team and we're to encourage one another and do what we can to help the other succeed. And suddenly now I've been married for 2 years, and I can honestly say that if I never achieve that professional goal, if my husband achieves his professional goal and I can help him in doing that, I would rather him achieve that and me never have what I thought that I had once wanted. Because now my desire is to make my husband happy.
And that's my desire as well, and
The
so
other way,
I think that makes it work, that if we're both feeling that way and working towards submitting to one another.
And then, of course, me loving her is me being unselfish and showing her by doing what I know will help her through her day and just helping her in any way possible. Sure, Megan may submit to me in terms of my spiritual leadership in the household, but that doesn't mean I can abuse that power or anything like that.
Neil and I have always been and consider ourselves co-leaders. We have a lot of problems with the term submission, definitionally, and as a theological quandary. And we are equals. That's one of the reasons why we are so good together. We confer together on every financial decision. We confer together on all of our plans. That idea that we will have an equal say in everything is paramount to us and where we come from as equals.
She got the dog without asking me, though.
That is absolutely not true.
And it was a good decision. I don't regret it. But I'm just pointing out.
Being engaged, Neil, I actually have a question for you. So being engaged is kind of for all of you, but Neil specifically, now that you've found the one, you know who you're going to marry, you know who you're going to spend the rest of your life with, how can you focus on being one?
I think, and this is actually one of the positive aspects of our relationship. I mean, so much of dividing chores and other things almost seems to come without even communicating them, and we understand them. And I'd like to think I have a good concept of what Carrie expects and what she wants and expects from me. But it is a constant concern to not meet that expectation. I mean, you feel a certain way about one person, but in the back of my mind, and I imagine other people's, there's always the fear that you won't meet the same expectation to them, or you won't be as beloved as they are to you. And I don't know that I have any answer to assuage that concern or assuage that fear, except to just be conscious of it and to listen as closely as possible. And I think in my own experience, what's been most useful is to remind Carrie what she means to me. And I think those are the opportunities most when she can communicate either what I'm doing right or wrong, but that has usually been the doorway through which I can understand what the expectations of me are and reciprocate and hope that I can be to her what she is certainly to me.
Yeah. With the chores and who's going to provide for the money, it all comes down to we learned this a lot from the church we attend, and what we've been learning is to be a servant no matter what. So if you see something on the floor, you don't wait for this person it's the person that's supposed to pick that up on the floor to pick it up. I mean, if you see it, go ahead and go for it. If the dishes are not done, go ahead and wash the dishes. It came to a point where serving takes a great part of a strong relationship. When you learn how to be more selfless, going back to that, and being able to serve your significant other more, and just humbling yourself down, it becomes an important role.
So one of the big challenges for couples getting married is, how do you actually become a team? You've been living as an individual, you've been living independently for all these years, you've learned how to do life as you. And now you're coming together as a couple, and you're assuming, whether you admit it or not, you're assuming that other person does things the same way you do, and that's why you've fallen in love. And then you're going to get married, and you're going to find out, wow, we really do things differently.
Unquestionably, the first thing is to realize that by design, marriage is a team sport. Okay, God created marriage and the two to become one as a team, not to become one as if they're the same, to become one as a team in complete unity. And the rules of team apply to marriage. So the bottom line is this: when you're on the same team, there's only two possible outcomes. You both win or you both lose, period. There is no such thing as a win-lose outcome in marriage ever. It's purely an illusion from the pit of hell.
When it's about the team and when it's about the marriage, the witness of your family, we share with folks, don't give up. Don't quit. Sometimes you're injured and you have to go to the training room for Christ to bathe you in his love and in the scriptures, and you go away. We go on retreats at times and we still away and we pray. And when it's really hard, but you got your greatest fan.
Becoming a student of your spouse, it's one of the great journeys of life. And where that starts is you become an observer rather than a critic. Because, again, I've been watching Pam for most of my life now. And Pam does things very differently than me. And it would be very easy for me to say, well, you know what, we need to work on that one, we need to work on that one. If she did this, she'd be more efficient. If she did this, she'd be easier to live with. It'd be really easy to make that list and to be her critic. If instead of being her critic, I say, I'm just going to observe the way she does things, and I'm going to keep my heart open to the things she does that are better than what I do. And that's really the key, is that I have to assume there are some things she does in life that are better than the way I do them. Because if I have that attitude, I'm going to be willing to learn from her.
I think that in marriage, sometimes we forget that we're on the same team. And in times of crisis or conflict, all of a sudden he becomes my enemy and, on the opposing team. And if I have that view of him, then the conflict is not going to be worked out because we're against each other. But if we remember that we're on the same team, we're working toward the same goal, teammates are for each other. And so if there's an issue between us, we work it out because we're teammates. Something that has been really important to me is that before we were married, Johnny just said, when it comes to making important decisions, if we can't be united and come to this together, then we won't make a decision. And there's been a few times that we've had to just really wait for a while and just and pray on our own and pray together. And every time I see, just as we are united and we are one, that the Spirit is speaking to both of us, and we then proceed with the decision. But a lot of times we have to wait because we're not in agreement.
A specific example of that was 3 months into our marriage, I felt this call to go into vocational ministry for the first time. And it was going to mean a cut in pay, and it was something that we really had I don't think Marla was completely comfortable with it right out of the chute. But as she said, we prayed about it, and we're led to do that. And now we're both in vocational ministry and have been for the duration of our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
When one of our children ventured from home and ran away from home, she was gone for 4 days. And we did not know where she was. She was upset over something, and she was with a friend. She was safe, but we didn't know it. But we had to weather that together.
And not go after each other, but to bond together in those moments, in those days, to pull together in prayer.
Through those crisis times, of the children being able to see, but we had to literally realize that two are better than one. It's a reason why God made a man and he made a woman in the dynamics of who we are. But it's a way that Melanie, they say many times, compliments you, but she completes me.
I'll never forget this one time. I'd worked at a conference out of town, and I was working all day, every day, from literally 6:30 to 9:30 at night. But I brought my wife along because it was at a very nice hotel, and she was able to kind of go and do things. And for the little bit of time that we had together, we were together. But at the end of the conference, it was 9:30 at night, and my wife looked at me, and she was relentless, and she insisted. But I was exhausted. And she said, Josh, she said, I really want to go out to this awesome dinner. I want to go to this restaurant. It's 9:30 at night. I had been on my feet all week. I was exhausted. She said, please, I just one experience with you at this restaurant. And so I gave in, and I said, all right, let's go do this. And so we went to that restaurant, and it's still today one of the most memorable dinners we've ever had together. I think it's important that when you do die to self, I think the same principle of Jesus dying on the cross and the resurrection of Jesus applies to our marriage as well. So when he describes himself as the bridegroom and he talks about dying to yourself in marriage, I think when we die to ourselves, what's resurrected are incredible memories out of it. And that night was a memory that was resurrected that had I not died to myself, we would have never had. And so yes, it's not going to feel good in the moment, but sometimes just give in. You don't have to be right. You don't have to, if you're exhausted, you're tired, whatever it is, give in. If we want to become more like Christ, Christ laid down his life. That's what we're called to in marriage, is to lay down our lives. So when we crucify ourselves, when we sacrifice ourselves and our desires in marriage, and I'm not saying this in a negative way that you lose yourself, what ends up happening is you find more of yourself.
when we had to make a decision about where we were going to live, and I had one perspective and my wife had another perspective, and I asked her to trust me. I said, trust me on this. I agree with what you're saying, but I believe God is calling me to this. Let me give you the rationale for why I believe God is calling us to this. And I'm saying, I need you to trust me. And so she made the decision to trust me, and whew, it worked out. If the man is seeking her best, even if his decision is in another direction, she knows that that decision was made with her in mind. And when she knows that, she's comfortable with the decision, and she is freer to submit to it. It means that she willingly allows him to be the final decision maker after she has fully given all of her perspective, talents, gifts to the issue, as long as he is not requiring her to abandon her faith on any level, because her submission to Christ trumps her submission to her husband. So whenever Christ and her husband are in conflict, he loses. Christ always wins. But with under that umbrella, she recognizes his legitimate authority and headship and allows him to exercise that with the full inclusion of all she brings to the table.
God did not create us capable of figuring this life out, figuring our life, our marriage out without him. I mean, we aren't really equipped to pull it off. So why do that? There's no perspective that I want in my marriage now more than God's. And it allows me to figure out how to overcome my limitations, because I've been created on purpose with limits. And truthfully, I get to the end of Bob pretty quick. And if I'm stuck with me, and all I got when I hit the edge here is me, I'm done right there. And the fact that I have the ability to connect up to God, who isn't limited, he is limitless. And he's all powerful and all knowing and able to be all places at all times. He understands the whole thing. Why would I want to go forward without taking advantage of that perspective?
I want to love her as Christ has loved me, because I feel that's what he's calling me to do. And that means that not only do I need to serve her, but I need to sacrifice for her. And that's the joy that I get, because there's always going to be those opportunities. Sometimes I'm tired. Well, yeah, come on. Many times I'm selfish. Many times it's about me. I don't want to do that. I'm tired. I've had a hard day at work. Leave me alone. Can we just not do anything tonight?
Yeah. Don't talk. Whatever you do, no deep conversation.
No talkie. Yeah. But at the end of the day, true north is a compass, is sacrificing for our spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want to get back to. And then we make decisions based on things that feel good to both of us.
Mm-hmm. In Philippians, it says, don't only look to your own interests, but the interests of others. Because, it's assumed that we're going to look at our own interests. We're selfish beings. And, like you said, if you learn anything when you say I do, you really become very aware of how selfish we really are. And so don't only look to your own interests, look to the interests of your spouse. Outserve them and do these things in sacrifice.
So as a newlywed couple, the opportunity is to start in the right way from the beginning, when you both are responsible for it all, and you serve, you sacrifice, and you figure out what feels like a win-win to both as you divide up the tasks and things. See, that's how you start off right. That's the opportunity.
Love, I guess the way I would define it, is being able to sacrifice for another person, being able to give yourself in whatever circumstance it is, preferring them above your own self and your own needs or your own wants.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. Sacrifice is a key word, because there's been so many times that we would have had the potential to be very selfish in our marriage. I'll admit it, there's many times I think we have been selfish, but we would be reminded, this is not what marriage is all about. Marriage is about sacrificing the way Christ sacrificed himself for the bride. And when we come back to that priority in our marriage, that is kind of like the glue that has always held us back together.
Marriage is so much more about being the right person than it is finding the right person. And I think that really encapsulates the essence of what a team is. On a team, I can't control you. I can't. I can have influence over you, but really my responsibility is to carry my weight and to be the best version of me to accomplish the task at hand. And I think in marriage, while it's not all about accomplishing tasks, obviously, that's a part of it. We have daily tasks that we do, that we have to fulfill, and responsibilities, and just being the best version of ourselves for one another so that the task can be accomplished, but then also the task of serving one another and the joy that comes from that as well. And so I think that's what it looks like for us, like just trying to grow in our communication, growing in our education, growing in our training, growing in our love for God, our love for people, you know, A to Z. I think it's more holistic, I think, than what many of us assume it to be, you know.
You'll discover that you become teammates when you say, I do. You become one. As teammates, we must work towards supporting each other and finding solutions that are truly win-wins for both team members. Both have to matter. When we see each other next, we'll talk about how to manage money in married life.